However well we can reorient ourselves towards what we feel is right, and using the best of our parents' teachings, and making the best of ourselves, it comes to our attention in Virgo 16 particularly that there's an animal within us, there's a beast, and it's violent, and it's dark, and it's not cultivated at all. But we have to do something about that. The orangutan image is it's not without consciousness. I mean, we're talking about a primate, we're talking about some potential here for developing towards human consciousness. So we're looking at the animal within us that can be tamed and made into something a little bit more acceptable in the sort of civilized sense of being a human. And Virgo 17, the volcano in eruption, indicates the need to let out the fire within us, to blow off. The emotional charge within us is passionate and is dangerous, and we can't really expect to train it, to tame it away. So a part of our clearing process that moves us towards being a more cultivated being is catharsis. We have to release very dark, passionate, pent-up emotions sometimes, and that has to be done in a controlled way. To get around that would not be wise, and a lot of people find it impolite to be angry in public and so on, and it is, but it's best not to hold on to this stuff. You have to find a way, a therapeutic way. It could be in sport, it could be in therapy, it could be some other device, but we do need to let it out. And if we don't, then we don't find out who we are, and we don't awaken the more subtle consciousness that resides below the intense emotionality of being, which is in fact in Virgo 18 awakened. The Ouija board is an image of a game actually that used to be played 100 years ago. It was never meant to be a very serious study, but it was meant to light-heartedly persuade us that there are other realms, and that intuitively we can tune into them. And if you approach this study of the Ouija board, and in fact by extension I would include all devices that enable us to perfect our intuition and develop it anyway, such as tarot cards, such as astrology, such as reading tea leaves, all of these marginal studies that don't make any sense to the scientists and only make sense if you've got a fairly well-developed intuitive intelligence. By using such a system to develop your intuition, you get to understand that the system is secondary. It's a stepping stone. It doesn't have to work in any measurable sense. It has to work in order to awaken intuition, and intuition works. Even the most ardent billionaire businessman knows that without his gut feelings, he'd be nothing. People trust their intuition, and they might call it something else, and they might say, oh, it's mysterious, it's not measurable in science, but they still use it. And that can be developed. In fact, it must be developed if we are to optimize our level of intelligence. Now, this whole thing of optimization and perfecting the self is what we're discussing within Virgo. We come to 19, the swimming race. And this is another sense in which by competing, we stretch ourselves to do better than we would without the competition. It doesn't have to be swimming, although when we're talking about water in metaphorical terms, we're usually talking about emotional aspects of being. So a swimming race would be somebody who's competing with themselves, actually, to be in charge of their emotions more. It's the same kind of image as the orangutan, isn't it? Where we have to kind of understand that there is this beast within us, and it can be volcanic, but intuitively we can get a sense of what's going on so that there's no frustration to feed the emotionality, and then we can perfect ourselves. We can put challenges in place so that we can learn how to become a better person. And in Virgo 20, that's, all about traveling in convoy, really, an automobile caravan. There's a sense of all going to the seaside at the same time in your caravans, and doing it collectively, working cooperatively towards a common goal, being a part of the community without upsetting the apple cart, which you would do if you didn't clear your emotions. And it's just the whole point of clearing your emotions is, in the Virgo context, it's, I want to find a place within the community which is me, it's workable, it's who I am, it's authentic, and yet it doesn't upset the apple cart. We're not going to disturb anything. So finding this sense of being able to fit in and so on requires us to go through this cultivation process.